The bright lights of the studio gleamed as Leanne Morgan entered the set with a warm wave and a gentle smile. Andy Cohen welcomed her with his trademark ease. The audience applauded, and the conversation started as any late-night chat would. Greetings, light jokes, a bit of promotion of her upcoming tour. The tone felt comfortable and relaxed. Leanne seemed happy, Andy appeared congenial. The stage was set for an easy hour of good-natured fun. Leanne settled into the guest chair, smoothing the fold of her outfit, laughing as Andy joked about her southern background. She talked about how she balances comedy and family, how her material evolves. The audience responded with smiles and chuckles. For a moment, the show felt just like dozens of interviews before a comfortable, warm, promotional. The host asked about new specials, upcoming dates, and the rhythm remained normal. But then Andy shifted ever so subtly. He asked Leanne about the generation gap and comedy, about how younger comics approach social issues differently. At first, Leanne smiled and nodded, then offered her own take about embracing change. The crowd leaned in. It felt like an interesting turn. Andy asked, "Do you ever worry your older jokes might not land?" Leanne paused, a flicker of something crossing her face. Leanne answered diplomatically. She said comedy evolves, but truth remains. She described how she still writes about everyday folks, real life, and believes connection matters. The tone remained polite. Andy nodded, but then he followed up. "Some critics say your jokes occasionally veer into old-school territory and might offend the newer audience. What do you say to that?" The question hung. The atmosphere shifted. Leanne's smile became measured. She said, "My goal isn't to offend, it's to make folks laugh. And yes, sometimes I use older language or ideas, but I also listen and I learn." The audience clapped politely. Andy pushed further. "At what point does older school become tone-deaf?" The phrasing introduced tension. Leanne straightened in her chair. Andy introduced a clip of one of Leanne's jokes, one that touched on generational divides and regional identity. As the video played, the audience chuckled, but Leanne's expression changed. When it ended, Andy said, "Some say that joke is harmless. Others say it reinforces stereotypes. What's your response?" The line between comedy and critique blurred. Leanne paused. Deep breath. She said, "I know laughter sometimes stings. I know people are more sensitive. But I write what I see, what I live. I don't pretend this world is perfect. And if someone hears themselves in the joke, well, maybe that's the point." The audience murmured. Andy nodded, unsmiling, then asked, "But what about those who feel excluded by the joke rather than seeing themselves?" The room felt cooler. Leanne's posture changed, a subtle tightening of her shoulders. She said, "I don't exclude, I aim to include. If someone feels excluded, I'm willing to listen. But I won't apologize for being honest." Andy shifted in his seat. Honest is good, but there's honest and then there's harmful. Who decides the line? The giant studio mirrors seemed to echo the question. At that moment, one of the producers off-camera signaled Andy. He glanced down at his notes, then back at Leanne. The exchange had lost its easy rhythm. The audience quieted. Leanne waited. Andy asked, "Do you think the age of cancel culture changes how you approach your work now?" The question floated. Leanne looked at him directly. She replied evenly, "Culture changes. I change with it. But I don't change who I am at the core. I still tell the truth I know. If someone wants me to shift or stop, fine. But I'll know whether I'm staying true or shedding myself for approval." Andy's brow furrowed. "That sounds broken bar defiant." Leanne nodded. The tension became palpable. Andy leaned forward. "Defiance has a cost. Some would say you're refusing to evolve." Leanne raised her voice slightly. "Evolution doesn't mean abandoning your voice. It means improving, yes, but not discarding your roots for fear of offense." The audience shifted in their seats. Andy set his microphone down for a moment, looking at the live studio monitors. The show's music softened. Leanne studiously avoided glancing at him and stared ahead. Andy resumed, "Let's talk about your upcoming special. You've stated you will take fewer safe topics and more dangerous ones. Are you courting controversy?" Leanne inhaled. She answered, I'll always court truth. If truth meets controversy, so be it. Comedy is about risk. It's about walking that line so people catch themselves laughing and thinking, if I never risked, I'd be boring. And I'm not aiming to be boring. Andy nodded, but his tone sharpened. Some would argue you're risking too much, offending more than enlightening. Leanne fixed him with a steady look. If you're asking me whether I care what critics say, sometimes yes. Sometimes number, but I care what my audience feels. If they tell me I crossed a line, I'll listen. But if I walked off that line because I feared backlash, then I might as well be silent. Andy leaned back. Silence isn't your style. The host turned to the camera. We're going to take a quick break. The lights dimmed slightly, and the live feed cut to commercials. Backstage chatter buzzed. The audience speculated. The tone of the show had shifted from light to confrontational, from jokes to accountability. Leanne's jaw remained set. Andy looked pensive. When the show returned, Andy attempted a warmer tone. Okay Leanne, let's lighten things up. Tell us about your tour wardrobe choices. But Leanne interrupted. No, Andy, I'm here to talk about the show, the upcoming special, and what's behind the jokes. If we're going to shift topics to wardrobe, then maybe we're avoiding what matters. The audience gasped softly. Andy paused, then quietly said, fair. The set felt charged. The host picked up a cue card. Let's talk about how you prepare emotionally for a live performance. Leanne nodded again. I've learned to protect myself mentally, because criticism can sting. I've built a team. I have a voice, but I also have limits. Andy, what happens when someone crosses your limit? Leanne took a deep breath and said, then I walk away. Andy blinked slowly. Walk away? Leanne said firmly, yes. If I sense the conversation is not respectful, if the line is no longer comedy but confrontation disguised as interview, I reserve the right to leave. The audience froze. Andy frowned and looked off camera. The live music cue paused. The tension hung. Leanne stood. She smiled gently but firmly. I've enjoyed previous appearances. Tonight I'm not comfortable, so I'm going to excuse myself. The sounds of the studio and the audience, the camera drones, they felt distant. With that she stepped off the guest chair, walked straight with quiet dignity toward the stage exit. Andy sat frozen. The audience burst into light applause and murmurs of shock. The cameras cut to a wide shot. The live broadcast transitioned to a pause and then to a commercial break. Backstage, assistants and producers hurriedly gathered. Andy glanced at the monitors, then turned to the crew. We'll cover the rest later. The audience at home saw the clip going viral in real time. Online feeds lit up with screenshots and short clips of Leanne's exit. #Leanne Morgan trended. The story spread. Immediately social media exploded. Fans of Leanne celebrated her for standing her ground, for refusing to be boxed in. Others criticized her for walking off on a live show. She made a statement. One post read, she missed an opportunity. Another claimed, the narrative spun in multiple directions. Entertainment blogs picked up the story. Headlines ranged. Comedian storms off late-night show after tough questions. When does humorous self-a-brand turn into public defensive? Talk show analysts reviewed the clip, asking, did the host overstep? Did the guest misread the tone? The incident became fodder for media critique. The next day, Leanne released a statement. She thanked her fans, reiterated her commitment to comedy and respect, and said she felt the conversation moved away from mutual respect and into confrontation. She emphasized her love of the show format but said she wouldn't stay silent when she felt overshadowed by conflict. Andy followed with a brief note too, thanking Leanne for coming on the show, expressing regret that the interview ended prematurely, and promising to revisit with a more collaborative tone. The host said he valued her voice and hoped to work with her again under clearer expectations. Behind the scenes at the network, executives convened. They reviewed footage, noted the spike in engagement, and the PR followed. Some saw it as a ratings win, others feared damage to trust. Internal memos called for stricter pre-interview outlines and better topic alignment. The incident shook standard operating procedures. Comedy insiders commented, the moment exposed pressure on comics to adapt their voice while remaining authentic. Leanne's exit became a talking point about boundaries in entertainment. Many rising comedians weighed in on podcasts, When do you compromise your voice? The moment transcended a single show. Meanwhile, Leanne's tour ticket sales reportedly increased in the aftermath. Fans rallied around her. Social sentiment shifted. The walk-off was seen less as quitting and more as a choice. Interviews in trade magazines praised her bravery. The narrative changed from guest exit to public stand. Weeks later, Leanne returned to television on a show with pre-agreed topics. The vibe was different, lighter, intentional. She joked, laughed, engaged. Behind the scenes, she declined shows that didn't guarantee respectful dialogue. The television world had taken notice. And so the full story remains. What began as a standard late-night talk show appearance evolved into a moment of confrontation and boundary setting. Leanne's departure wasn't an escape, it was a statement. One that sparked conversation about voice, respect and choice in an industry built on exchange. Sometimes the biggest message comes not from staying at the microphone, but from walking away. In the following week, entertainment networks dissected the clip in endless loops. Some outlets stowed the footage, highlighting Leanne's poised expression and Andy's unreadable glance. Commentators argued that it symbolized a cultural turning point in celebrity interviews, where performers now demanded conversational safety rather than showmanship. Viewers debated whether authenticity or entertainment mattered more in a world addicted to viral conflict. Public reaction split sharply down generational lines. Younger fans applauded her decisiveness, labeling it a masterclass in boundary setting. Older fans viewed it as professional disappointment, suggesting she could have steered the moment differently. Yet both groups agreed. It was unforgettable television. The moment's replay value eclipsed every scripted sketch that night. Within 24 hours, it dominated trending lists across platforms. Comedy peers spoke up one by one. A few praised her poise, others joked about it lightly on stage. Podcasts discussed how gender often shapes the reaction to walk-offs. If a male comic had exited mid-interview, would the tone have been labeled brave or unprofessional? The debate spiraled into commentary on respect in entertainment, how vulnerability and strength can coexist within the same act of defiance. Meanwhile, Andy Cohen addressed the audience in his next broadcast. He started by expressing admiration for Leanne and clarifying that his questions had no malicious intent. He admitted that tone, pacing, and intent sometimes get lost in live conversation. The audience applauded politely, but online opinion remained divided. The sincerity of the apology became its own talking point. The culture of media accountability was once again under the microscope. Behind the curtain, production staff privately acknowledged the tension they felt that night. One crew member later revealed to a reporter that the energy had shifted mid-interview, describing how even the audience sensed an invisible wall between host and guest. Some speculated Andy's questions were meant to challenge, not offend. Others suspected an editorial push for viral moments. Either way, the result exceeded anyone's expectations. Leanne's publicist crafted a strategy to turn the moment into empowerment rather than controversy. Carefully timed interviews reframed the story. She wasn't angry, she was assertive. She wasn't fragile, she was focused. This rebranding resonated with audiences tired of media spin. By emphasizing intention over reaction, Leanne reclaimed control of the conversation that had spiraled beyond her. Within 10 days, Leanne's official YouTube channel posted a message to fans. She appeared calm, smiling, seated in her kitchen. She thanked viewers for their kindness, clarified that she bore no personal resentment, and repeated her belief that respectful dialogue matters more than airtime. The video garnered millions of views, receiving overwhelming support. Her soft-spoken delivery countered the heated image portrayed in headlines. Andy Cohen's network simultaneously aired a special episode reflecting on the nature of modern interviews. Several guests discussed the thin line between curiosity and confrontation. The show analyzed the fine art of timing, how quickly a host must read emotional cues before pushing a guest too far. Many praised the transparency. It marked a rare self-reflective gesture from a network typically known for provocative television. Over the next month, interest on Leanne's comedy spiked dramatically. Streaming platforms saw her previous specials climb in the charts. Audiences revisited her humor, noting how it balanced honesty with compassion. Critics wrote that her authenticity, ironically, had found its loudest amplifier through conflict. By standing her ground, She had reinforced her brand as the relatable woman who refuses to play games. As more details surfaced, insiders confirmed that neither party had planned for the moment to escalate. There was no premeditated stunt, no ratings trick. It was spontaneous, raw, and relay precisely why it resonated. In a world of rehearsed exchanges, Leanne's decision to walk out struck audiences as refreshingly human. Authentic discomfort, not performance, made it powerful. Months later, when both Leanne and Andy attended a charity gala, photographers captured them exchanging a cordial smile across the room. No hostility, no drama, just acknowledgement. Tabloids ran the photos under headlines like "True set luster and grace behind the glamour." It suggested closure, though many fans speculated that emotional distance still lingered. Neither confirmed nor denied. Industry insiders noted the ripple effect the encounter had on talk show policies. Producers began circulating new guest preparation guidelines emphasizing consent over spontaneity. Guests could now veto discussion topics that felt overly personal or controversial. Ironically, the network credited Leanne's exit for sparking overdue reforms in how interviews are conducted. What had seemed chaotic became catalyst. Leanne's next comedy special opened with an unscripted monologue referencing the event. "Sometimes walking away," she said, "is just a fancy Southern way of saying bless your heart, but not today." The audience roared with laughter. She transformed an uncomfortable memory into creative fuel. That moment not only healed the narrative, it also reinforced her comedic control and fearless humor. Critics praised the special for blending vulnerability and wit. They noted how she transformed the public confrontation into universal commentary about self-worth and dignity. Her timing, one reviewer wrote, reminds us that boundaries are punchlines too. For many, the walk-off had become a metaphor about courage, autonomy, and knowing when to protect one's peace. Leanne had turned adversity into artistry. In retrospect, the fiery clash on Andy Cohen's show transcended gossip. It became a study in self-awareness and modern celebrity dynamics. Leanne Morgan didn't simply storm off, she rewrote the rules of engagement. Her choice symbolized a new era where entertainers prioritize humanity over headlines. Long after the applause faded, her decision remained proof that silence, chosen deliberately, can echo louder than any punchline delivered under pressure.